Hey guys, welcome back to more legal advice stories. What would you do if you bought a new house and your next door neighbor claims that he made a contract with the previous owner that allows him to park in your driveway daily and block you in? Let's dive right into the story. Okay, so this is pretty straightforward, but not really sure where to go or what to do. So I just bought a new house, how exciting, and our realtor told us to expect some surprises. Here's our first and major surprise: our neighbor likes to park and block our driveway. He seems to be an avid car collector and has quite a few of them. We didn't really notice it because I guess he parks his daily driver in front of our driveway. So when we were touring the house and whatnot, he was away at work. We have noticed the issue when we need to leave our driveway for work and his car is blocking us in. We have knocked on the door and had a few discussions with him about how that is not acceptable, and he has busted out a handwritten contract that he had with the previous owner stating that it was okay for him to block her driveway. He let me read the contract and it does state that he can block our driveway from the hours of 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. every day of the week. The previous owner was an elderly woman who did not drive, so I can imagine it was not an inconvenience to her. He has threatened us with legal action and told us that because he has a contract, he can legally park there. I don't think that is true. Also, I'm aware that we have to live next to this man for the next handful of years, and I want to approach this situation delicately without necessarily getting the courts involved, but I just would like to know what my rights are. I think because the contract was with the former tenant, it is null and void. Any idea how to make peace with our new neighbor and still have the ability to pull in and out of our driveway? I'm kind of at my wit's end here, so any advice is majorly appreciated. And yeah guys, let me know in the comments what you would do here. I think it is pretty wise of OP to not go in fully guns blazing, because as OP said, they have to live next to this guy for years, and even though he might seem to be a douchebag, you don't want to make enemies right away, correct? Let me know what you would do in the comments. Comment number 1 said, call the non-emergency police line every time he blocks your driveway. Alternatively, you can call a tow truck. His contract does not matter, as it is usually a city ordinance or local law that prohibits anyone from blocking a driveway, even your own. Comment number 2, you need to stick up for yourself, have his car towed every single time. If he says, I'm gonna sue, say, great. Don't try to be nice, just do it. If you don't, then he's just gonna bully you. If you show him that you're not gonna be bullied, you might end up with a decent relationship with him. As others have pointed out, his agreement with the previous owner does not bind you, not even clear that it bound her. Comment number 3, inform them that they can park it in front of the driveway of the home the old owner owns, but you are the new owner and they don't have a contract with you. Let them know that if they continue to block your vehicle in, you will have it towed. And now guys, let's read the update to the story. It goes like this. Thank you everyone for your helpful advice. I was not expecting so many responses. I see a lot of people mentioning why we didn't do something sooner. When I say we just moved in this past Monday. We have not even been at the new house for a week. I would not say that I'm a pushover, just with buying a new house and planning a move, this was not on my bingo card. However, it turns out he did good on his promise and talked to a lawyer who told him it was illegal to block a driveway regardless of any contract, and that the contract in question is null and void since the previous owner moved away. But regardless, blocking someone else's driveway is still illegal. He came over and apologized, and he also brought some store-bought cookies, an apology letter, and the contract with the former owner for us to keep or destroy. I think this is a nice olive branch for the situation. He wants to start over again and welcome us into the neighborhood. I'm hoping we can turn the corner and start anew with our new neighbor. He seemed pretty embarrassed and genuinely seemed sorry. He is an older guy, so maybe he just didn't know the laws or is not good with change. Hopefully we can just enjoy being each other's neighbors in the meantime, and maybe one day this will just be a funny story. And the next one is another super interesting car-related story that is titled, Am I wrong for being upset that my spouse bought the car he wanted? And by the way guys, let me know in the comments, what is your dream car or dream motorcycle that you would buy if you had too much money? So my 31 female husband, 32 male, bought a car today after we specifically had agreed to wait to purchase it. We spoke last night about our finances and how he's currently trying to pay off credit card debt that he accumulated. He mentioned wanting to buy an electric vehicle, and I told him that a car payment would basically give him very little wiggle room once the bills are paid, etc. To top it all off, I just took out a 15K loan to replace our AC system that needs to be replaced. Like I said, we had talked about it last night, to which he says to me, "You're right, I should wait to pay off my debt before buying a car." I felt relieved and figured that was the end of the conversation. Fast forward to this morning, he tells me that he purchased a car he wanted online. I'm shook because what the hell, we just talked about this. He tells me he doesn't feel like waiting and he's making a choice for the family. But I called BS on this. I said I felt extremely disappointed and disregarded. A vehicle purchase is a big deal in my opinion. He said I was wrong for overreacting and he's now more or less ignoring my texts. He says it's not a big deal to buy a car and basically minimized the entire situation. I'm quite literally fuming. My mom was kind enough to call me an idiot for not considering a divorce. Am I wrong here? Are big purchases like that normal for other couples? I feel nauseous and stuck and I don't know how to come to terms with something like this. To add, this is not the first time I'm disregarded, but it's the first time I'm questioning whether my reaction is not the correct one. And yeah guys, if you would be in this situation as OP and your significant other just bought a car without you agreeing to it, what would you have done? Let me know in the comments. Commenter number 1, he is a selfish a-hole. That is a huge purchase that should be agreed upon. Making a choice for the family? No, he is being a controlling dick and from the sounds of it, financially irresponsible. Also, if your mom is telling you divorce, well, she would know better than us. Commenter number 2, you're 100% right, but let him find out. I hope you have separate bank accounts. Let him live with his family choice. Commenter number 3, did he factor in charging it at your home? Or is that something you already have? OP then said, he broke the news to me through text, so I'm not 100% sure what his game plan is, but it's not something we have at home. It's also a Tesla. Update to the story, to be honest, since my post a year ago, my life has more or less crumbled. My husband and I have divorced and it was finalized just this past month. Everything feels almost like a blur and I don't think I've really sat down and fully processed everything that happened. Some context I didn't add to my last post. My ex and I do have 2 children. He also did have a second job at the time. His work schedule was as follows. Day job was from 9 AM to 6 PM and his night job was from 10 PM to 6 AM. I absolutely hated this work schedule. He was barely ever home, he was always tired, and he didn't spend much time with the kids. His finances were pretty crap and he was drowning himself in debt. This was a point of contention for me because I'd already helped him to get out of credit card debt several times before, but he always managed to rack the credit card debt back up. At the time he bought the card, I'd taken out that 15K loan for the AC system and I told him that we had a year to pay it off interest-free. This became, in my opinion, the beginning of the end. He quickly told me that he could not help me pay anything towards the AC because his Tesla payment was $1,000 per month, and then it happened. 2 months into having his car, he totaled it. It took months for the insurance to process his claim, but he had to continue making the payments. All the while, I had sent more than half of what little I had in savings so that I could finish paying off the AC before the year was up. On top of all this, I had taken on the role of supermom and I was beyond exhausted. All of the household chores became my responsibility as well as caring for our children. Thankfully, my parents were a great help to me during this time and would watch my youngest child while I worked during the day. At the time, my youngest was not even a year old yet. Eventually, everything started falling apart at the seams. We argued a lot because we were both so exhausted. Our finances were horrific. I remember looking at my bank account and I only had $34 in it. My eldest cried to my mom one day while I was at work and said that she was sad that I never played with her because I was always cleaning or cooking or working. She asked my mom if I still loved her because I never spent time with her because I was always so busy. I seriously bawled my eyes out that day when my mom told me. I started to realize that things were not working. I kept trying to communicate that I needed help, that I was tired, that I couldn't live like this anymore. Eventually, crap hit the fan, and I felt like it was a sign that our marriage was doomed. It was done. I said to him, I would rather divorce you now while I still love and respect you than later on down the road when we hate each other and then we damage our kids along the way because we're so angry. After some back and forth, he agreed, and I filed everything myself. I also emptied out whatever savings I had to pay for all the fees. I have since then moved in with my parents, and I rent a room in their house. The divorce was as drama-free as we could possibly make it. We get along pretty well and have decided to keep a civil relationship for our kids. One thing that I did find hilarious in this entire situation was that our divorce was finalized on April 1st. When I got the paperwork, I told him, "Damn, even the legal system thought our marriage was a joke." He did not laugh though. Well, for now, I can breathe a little easier, but I can say with 100% certainty that I have a lot to process and I need to put some serious work on myself as a person. I don't wish any ill on my ex, I hope he lives the life he chooses to the fullest. We want different things in our lives and our priorities didn't match. Still though, I hope he finds happiness. Anyhow, that's my update, thank you guys for reading, take care of yourselves out there. And yeah guys, let me know in the comments if you think OP did the right thing here or did she overreact. I'm very curious about your opinion. The next one is a fantastic story from r/malicious compliance that is titled, "If your pay raise is not enough, just quit." Okay then, so I got a job as a security guard after leaving the army because I was not qualified to do much else and I hadn't decided if I was going to college yet or not. The company refused to pay very much, so they had a high turnover. Because of this turnover, they had small raises built in at 90 days, 6 months and a year as an incentive to stay on. I needed a job and until I had my crap together, this would do. So I showed up and worked. My 1-year anniversary rolls around and I don't see my 50 cents an hour raise in my paycheck, but something more like 35 cents. So I called the boss. My 3- and 6-month raises had been delivered with no issues, so I was surprised that my 1-year anniversary had not shown up yet. Supposedly, they wanted to give all employees a raise, so they did, and yes, I got a small raise along with all the other guards, a few hundred of us. It was something like 35 cents an hour for each of us. Okay, fine, but what about my promised 50 cents an hour? As far as I was concerned, this 35 cents an hour was something you initiated after promising me more, so this is bonus. When I called the manager, I was told that I was not gonna get a raise for my 1-year raise because you just got a raise. No one gets 2 at once. If your pay raise is not enough, just quit. In other words, they were trying to claim a 35 cent an hour raise for every employee somehow was overriding the fact that I was owed an additional 50 cent an hour longevity raise. I'm sure there were others caught up like that. Fine, they want to give me 35 cents an hour of a raise and tell me that this is equal to the 85 cents an hour? I will find something better. So I spent the next week calling in sick and showing up late while job hunting. I called the office at the end of my last day and told them I was done and they could find someone else, giving them no notice at all. Panic mode ensued, everyone else was at 40 hours for the week and they hated paying overtime. One of the salaried managers had to cover for me. They told me to quit, so I did. I'm a teacher now, near retirement, my raises are still crap, but at least I can, barely, live off of it and I have a crappy union for now, which is more than I had then. And yeah, a few more cents an hour and they could have kept me as a wage slave. Crazy that I would even consider it now looking back on it. At least I enjoy my job today, as crazy as the kids are. And because it was so nice, we will read another story from r/malicious compliance, and if you enjoy the malicious compliance stories, please don't forget to post some star emojis in the comments because that would help me tremendously. This one is titled, "Bet You're Sorry Now." Many years ago, after decades of saving, my husband and I were doing well enough to finally build our dream home. After we moved in, we still had to have our yard leveled and sodded and arranged it early the next spring. That night, I was out watering the backyard sod when I saw my neighbor's wife, Chris, using a measuring tape between our homes. I asked her if everything was okay, and she said that we had sodded a section of their yard. I told her we had followed the sticks that the builder had left, and she said the builders must have screwed up and rudely insisted we had stolen a part of their yard. Not wanting to have an ongoing beef with her and her husband, Keith, we agreed to have our property resurveyed. When we did that, we got one hell of a surprise. The actual property line was not halfway between our houses as we believed, it was about 1.5 feet away from the side of their house. They owned a construction company and had built their house too close to the property line. This was an insane mistake for a professional. Still wanting to be good neighbors, we offered to split the cost and labor of a good neighbor fence using one of the 4 accepted fence styles allowed. My dad kept asking Keith when he wanted to start, but he always had one excuse after another. Then Keith rudely told Dan to stop bothering him. and Dan was furious. So then he bought all the materials and built the fence himself. He had been planning to put the fence halfway between our houses, but our neighbor was so rude that Dan built the fence just inside our property line, making the neighbor's house look terrible. The neighbor's husband came over, pissed as hell, but Dan reminded him that he and his wife wanted a new property survey and he had put off the fence for months. Our fence was magnificent because Dan was a carpenter and I am a great painter. The neighbor's husband built the fence next to ours, but it was ugly, badly built and not one of the approved designs. He was forced to tear it down later. And the next one is titled, Check Out Revenge. So I was reading another post on here that reminded me of a petty act of revenge I did a while back. I had popped into my local supermarket for a few essentials. It was pretty busy, but I had noticed that the self-checkout queues tended to have folks with only a few items each. So while the queue was longer, it was flowing quicker. I only had a handful of items myself, so I joined the queue. In this particular supermarket, there were 8 self-checkout machines, with the middle pair being back-to-back, think 2 squares side by side. Each square had its own queue, both being roughly the same length. I was stood in the queue for the right-hand side square. I was 3 places from the front of the queue when a woman approached from the left, spotted an empty checkout that the person at the front of the left queue was just picking up their basket to go to, and then cut straight in front of everybody. Now, if she was just scanning a sandwich and a drink, I don't think anybody would have been too bothered, but she had a trolley full of stuff, so she would be there for a while. Being British, nothing more was said other than some mild tutting. Anyway, as it was my turn to check out my items, I noticed the machine I was using was directly opposite the woman who had cut in line earlier. She had just about finished scanning everything, which had taken a little while given how much stuff she had. I also noticed that the power switches for the self-checkouts were very much in range of my feet. Whoever had laid out the store had handily written the numbers 6 and 7 on the plugs, which corresponded to the number 6 on the back of her machine and assumedly the number 7 on the back of mine. As she had just bagged her last item, I gave the power switch a gentle kick. In the UK, all plug sockets have an individual switch that will shut off power to the socket. A confused reaction from the other side confirmed that the machine had shut down. Then flick the switch back on again, the machine starts booting up. She stood there with a puzzled look on her face, which swiftly turned to anger as she realized she would have to scan everything all over again. I don't know if the supermarket staff had seen me do what I did, but she called one of them over and he very dryly said, "The machine crashed. You will have to rescan your shopping once it's restarted or use a staff till. Make sure you remove your items from the bagging area first." She did not look particularly impressed at this and started swearing under her breath. I'm not very good at keeping a straight face, so I swiftly finished scanning my items and then left. By the time I had gotten to my car, it had been another couple of minutes and I purposely drove by the front of the shop. She was still scanning away. And the next one is titled, Smoking Neighbor. So, the mother of all Karens lives next door and unsurprisingly, she is not very neighborly or considerate. She chain smokes every day in her back garden, approximately 2 meters away from my bedroom window, and it wafts over, leaving me unable to enjoy my garden, unable to open my windows in the summer, and unable to dry laundry in the garden as it ends up smelling like an ashtray. I have politely let her know that I have asthma and it is affecting my quality of life. I discussed that all I can do is kindly suggest that if she could ever smoke in her front garden instead if she sees my windows are open or that my washing is out, it would be greatly appreciated. There was no change to her behavior and she did not take it well. And then there is the glorious verbal abuse shouted over the fence at me. The one time I used my garden with friends, she complained about moderate noise of conversations and laughter at 8 p.m, yet said neighbor blares music on a weekly basis so loudly that I can hear the lyrics to the songs she is listening to. She regularly shouts over the fence that she is unhappy about the state of our landlord's garden, but as it is a rental property, I can only do so much to fix it. Last summer, the garden was covered like a jungle in out-of-control tall weeds and had a huge stack of rotten furniture from former tenants. I decided to do all the weeding, which was a horrendous task that took many grueling weekends of my own work. I had to tolerate her chain smoking while doing this task and it makes me feel quite ill. I also called my local council to collect the rotten furniture, paid for out of my own pocket. And when I was on the phone to the council sending the itinerary of items to be collected, said neighbor started abruptly shouting at me to shut up from her window. This was the only other occasion I have spoken audibly in my garden other than the time I had a few friends over for dinner. The revenge for the shouting? After the call, I audibly retorted, "So you don't want me to sort out the garden then, huh? Don't worry, after this I won't put down weed killer or do the garden again." Since that day, I've let the weeds get out of control. Only a year on, the garden looks like a jungle again, with human-high tree-like weeds sprouting everywhere and covering every inch of my garden. It looks like the garden of a haunted house, and I know it will drive my neighbor mad, especially because she knows it is a result of her own actions. When she looks out of her window, the view of my horrible garden will ruin her perfect one. I can hear her muttering about it from time to time. Revenge for the chain smoking affecting my quality of life and basic enjoyment of my home? I may have found a delectable fart-scented spray called liquid ass I'm contemplating spritzing out the window and over the fence. Reviews online describe the product as revolting, overwhelming and strong enough to induce coughing and gagging. I am quite tempted to use it to encourage her to smoke in her front garden instead. And before we end the video, we will read one last funny story from r/petty revenge that you don't want to miss. It is titled, "I stole a car from a car thief." So I woke up one night to the sound of my '95 Honda Civic trying to start. It would not start because the thief had not found the kill switch. There's a lot of car theft in my city and those old Hondas are easy targets, so I'm glad I had that installed. I ran outside in my underwear and just shouted from the porch as deep and loud as I could, "Hey, what the F are you doing?" And then two people ran out of the car and down the street. The shouting woke up my roommates and they came downstairs to see what was up. We peeked around, but the thieves had run off. Then a few minutes later, I hear the engine trying to start again, so I shout for my roommates to come back and we all ran outside in our underwear and pajamas. One guy had a skateboard and one guy grabbed a bat. So we're just all standing on the porch, not trying to get physical, just shouting at them. The one thief yells back from another Honda parked just a few feet away from mine. "No, this is my car, we are just trying to get away. It's my car." I don't know what came over me, but I shouted back, "No, that's my car now. That is mine." And they just were like, "Okay man," and ran off. I couldn't believe that worked, but I think it only worked because my three other roommates with the underwear and skateboard and bat appeared. I called the police right away and stayed outside watching for them, but they did not come back. The police checked their car, or my car I guess, and found that it was stolen of course. So the owner got his car back I suppose, and I'm so glad that I had that kill switch. And yeah guys, thank you for watching, please don't forget to like the video and I will see you again tomorrow.